Good evening all and welcome to tonight's council meeting. I'll start with our acknowledgement of country. Wodonga Council acknowledges Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as the first peoples of the country. We also acknowledge them as traditional owners and custodians across various lands. We pay our deepest respect to their ancestors, elders, children and young people. We acknowledge the strength and resilience of all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples and recognise their continuous connections to lands, waters and communities across the country. Item 2 is apologies, request for leave of absence and any requests by electronic means. I do have one request for leave from Councillor Poulton from September 20th to October 9th inclusive, and as per the new rules I'll need a mover and a seconder. Yep, okay. Thank you Councillor Hall and Councillor Watson. Okay. All those, I'll put the motion, all those in favour? Okay, that's unanimous, thank you. Item 3, declarations by councillors of any conflict of interest. I haven't been made aware of any at this point unless you want to let me know from the floor. No, thank you. And just, we've got item 4 here, condolences, and I'll read out a condolence that is as follows. That following the death of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, the Mayor, on behalf of the community, extend condolences to her family. And it just would be timely if we could acknowledge that with a minute's silence. I'll invite everyone to stand for 1 minute. Thank you. Now, item 5, we're at confirmation of minutes from previous meetings. We've got 2 there on page 5, I believe, so we'll do them in turn. So there's a recommendation on page 5 in relation to the meeting minutes from August 15, 22. If there's a mover or seconder for that, please. Thank you. Councillor Hall. Sorry, Councillor Lowe, wasn't it? Yep. Councillor Hall, second. All those in favour? Okay, that's unanimous. And the second round of minutes there, please, on August 22. Just same a mover and a seconder, please. Yep, Hall for that one. And a seconder for those minutes. Watson jumped in first. Put that motion. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Question time now. Well, it's a little bit different than what we have done before, but item 6 is our question time, and we believe, CEO, we have one question from Mr. Cameron Potter.
Thank you. We have a question from Cameron Potter, and it is, I have safety concerns with the Beechworth Wodonga Road between Victoria Cross Parade Roundabout and Streets Road Roundabout. The section of road is very narrow, with the volume of traffic increasing rapidly. With the new estates being developed in the Leneva Valley and the Castle Creek estate, there needs to be an upgrade to this section of the Beechworth Wodonga Road. He expresses that he sees near misses nearly every day, and there is a need to upgrade the section of the road with the turning lanes into Scarborough and Balmoral Drive constructed, bike lanes added before an accident occurs. The response we have to Mr. Potter's request is that the Wodonga Beechworth Road is a Department of Transport Regional Roads Victoria arterial road, and any proposed works to the asset would require their design and construction approval. Council's infrastructure design team is scheduled to undertake preliminary assessments, scoping and design work on options and preferred solution, and will engage with the Department of Transport to ascertain any technical or financial support for any proposed changes to the road configuration at the Scarborough Drive and/or the Balmoral Drive intersections. In the event that these changes are supported and approved, council officers will seek financial support for the projects from both Department of Transport and through council's own budget processes for the 23-24 year onwards.
Thank you, CEO. Moving on to item 7, delegates' reports, of which there are none at this stage. On to item 8, reports for determination. Councillors, 8.1, I see there was a certification of annual financial report, performance statement and report of operations, which was to be tabled at the meeting. I think there was an email circulated late this afternoon, but I'll probably look to some of the other councillors that form part of that to see if we can move this motion, and perhaps a bit of an update either from one of the directors or the CEO himself. Is there anyone willing to move that motion at item 8.1? Councillor Quilty, thank you. Councillor Mildren, second. Thank you. Councillor Quilty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Deputy Mayor, sorry. I am happy to endorse the a financial report for the financial year ending 30th of June 2022 and the attached reports. I attended me and Councillor Mildren represented the council at the Audit and Risk Committee meeting last year, where this report was discussed and endorsed. It contains, as usual, income statement, balance sheet, changes in equity, cash flow and capital works. Also a number of notes that are an interesting read, which includes a high-level analysis of our performance per project, our sources of funding, and the cost of delivering services, to name but a few. Of interest is slight increase to visible increase to capital commitments at note 5.7, which I believe is sufficiently explained in the notes, and there is a of interest is note 6.2, which reflects an adjustment for indexation on the value of land, which is according to Value General's rate recommendation. If Officer Klein has anything to add to my brief summary, I invite her to do so. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Look, the only thing that I would add to Councillor Quilty's summary is just looking at the income statement. The movement from the prior year, there is a change in the non-monetary contributions that have been received by council. This is an amount of money, it's the value of land assets that get handed over by developers when they complete their estates. So that is an item that we can't control, and it fluctuates from year to year depending on the developments going across the city each year. In the expenses side of things, we had a $16 million difference in impairments that were in the 2021 financial year. That was a result of the revaluation of land, buildings, parks, open space and streetscape assets in that year. So that's a change when you look at what's in the 2021-2022 year. Our expenses are reduced as a result of that one-off non-cash transaction last year. We have had some expenses higher, which is predominantly as a result of some higher material costs and projects that were carried over from last year as a result of COVID restrictions, making those projects not being complete by the end of last year. So that would be the main income statement item variations. And as Councillor Quilty correctly picked up, We did make one last-minute adjustment to the financial statements at the request of the Victorian Auditor General's Office in relation to indexation of land, recognising the volatility in the market regarding real estate and noting that we did revalue at the end of last year, but VAGO had identified that our land assets probably needed to have an indexation factor included. So that was a last-minute change, was circulated to Audit and Risk Committee members out of session, and their endorsement has been received.
Councillor Mildred.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. What more can I add? Not a lot, except to say thank you to Officer Klein. The level of detail that Officer Klein brings to this role is extraordinary, and I think we should be very thankful for what's been done. The work that's gone into the documentation and the reports, with the financial reports this year, is second to none. I think there's every step through the process, as I learnt through the Audit and Risk Committee, every step through the process, there's little things that get picked up after the event and rolled across, and the detail that gets picked up along the way is extraordinary. So thank you and congratulations to Officer Klein and her staff. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Any other councillors? Or I'll go back to Councillor Quilty to close. Councillor Quilty.
Nothing more to add to the financial statements. I would like to acknowledge and thank Councillor Mildred for joining me on the Audit and Risk Committee, and it's good to have a council body there. Thank you.
Yes, I'll reiterate that. A great teamwork there across the board. So therefore I'll put the motion. All those in favour? And it's unanimous. Thank you. Moving on to item 8.2, instruments of delegation. I believe at page 52, there is a date anomaly there, I think, CEO.
Councillors, the agenda was prepared anticipating the meeting was going to be last night, so we'll be changing the 19th to the 20th on that recommendation there in the staff report.
Okay, thank you, CEO. So in light of that, there's a recommendation on page 52 if we have a mover at all. Thank you. Councillor Lowe. Seconder. Councillor Watson. Thank you. Councillor Lowe.
Thank you. Mr Deputy Mayor. This is one of those documents that comes up a couple of times a year, so it gets reviewed at, I'll call it periodically, but it's twice a year from memory. And it's one of those things that is legislated as well, and it got heavily picked up in the last Local Government Act review. So some of the delegations that you were allowed to do prior to the last Local Government Act getting released is now purely and solely on the CEO. There are a couple of exceptions with committees, etc., but most of your delegations are delegated to the CEO these days, and then the CEO can delegate out from there, according to the Local Government Act. I come from a place of you give somebody the trust and it's up to them to take it away. So I'm not a believer in you've got to earn somebody's trust to give them. So there's a couple of points in this delegation where the CEO has an increased amount of dollars to be used just in agility-wise for contracts. A lot of contracts these days are getting, contractors are getting more savvy on how long their tender prices will last. So these changes, I feel, are just to give the CEO a little bit of agility, whilst we still overlooking his shoulder. Just because the CEO will have certain delegations. Doesn't mean he will use them either. I've got confidence that anything that may be subject to any sort of community haste will be brought to us before he acts upon that. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Lowe. I think it was Councillor Watson.
Thanks, Acting Mayor. I believe this is just one of those tools that the staff and can use. It's always updated. I think Councillor Lowe said twice a year, but if anything is out of order, we can always address it. But it just makes basically our council run very smoothly, and that it is with the officer end of our staff to get on and do their duties, which we empower them to do. So I think the changes have been good and should make it a smooth running council.
Thank you, Councillor Watson. Councillors? Councillor Quilty?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. As Councillor Lowe has pointed out correctly, we review the delegation instruments regularly. When I started on the council a couple of years ago, we had around about 200,000 delegated to the CEO, and it was considered to be a good amount sufficient to run the office, the operations of the office. And in my opinion, it should have stayed this way. I am not going to support the delegations for the following reasons. I think what we have been doing step by step incrementally is taking the power and the ability to make decisions from the community and the community's delegated representatives and giving it to the bureaucrats is the word comes to mind, but not in a derogatory, in a very positive way. However, I read the report, and the justification for the increased amount of the delegation was to enable quicker making of decisions. The council is left with the role to determine the strategic movements. Well, from my point of view, and my dream, my strategic dream is to make the council, the community representatives, to be more agile, more responsive. And agility is the word Councillor Lowe used. I would like to use it in a different sentence. We as council could be a lot more agile. We're here every Monday. We don't have to meet once a month. We can have committees, we can have working groups, we can include community. I think it is very important for democracy, not just in this city, but in this country, to involve community and community representatives heavily in making decisions at every level of government. And increasing the amount of delegations on the basis that council only meets once a month is not meeting this principle. Councillor Lowe also mentioned the word trust, and I also have this in my notes. My point is not a matter of trust or distrust in certain members of staff or our new CEO. People, unfortunately, as we have seen, come and go. Checks and balances stay with us and are to be valued and are to be respected if we want a bright future for our city and our country. I believe it is important to have a nice system of checks and balances which every person empowered and trusted by us can rely on. And it shouldn't only include staff members or the CEO. We should include councillors and members of the community in our circle of trust. I'm not going to support the delegation. I think we delegate way too much. I believe delegations need to be reviewed, and councillors, as elected representatives of the community, should take more responsibility and more power in making the decisions for our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Quilty. Right, almost right on time, so well Any other councillors? Yep, Councillor Hall.
Sorry, I've got a really croaky throat. Okay, with the appointment of our new CEO, I was keen to have an in-depth review of our instrument of delegations. And while we did have a briefing or, discussion sort of wasn't really a workshop, it was more just a briefing discussion on our delegations, some of the issues that had concerned me were given reassurance that these issues or decisions would come back to council. And so that gave me, I was happy about that. And I think it was a good response of reassurance by our new CEO, and I thank him for that. But I'm still with the belief it was a missed opportunity for our council to get into some of the detailed discussion about what we really want to have delegated as a council, and an opportunity for our councillors, especially the new ones, to learn more about delegations as a whole and what would best suit our council going forward. I think some of the new councillors haven't really, we've been through it, a few councillors in the prior council, line by line, and went through exactly what that sort of meant. And it was a big day that we did. I think we might have done it over 2 days, to be quite honest, but it gives you a little bit more of an insight. Now, there's things that we have to probably have to delegate, but there's things in our delegations that we could have come back to us. And I think to have our councils fully informed, I think we need to do that. And I think and we've just missed that opportunity to do it. So I'm not going to support the delegations tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Any other councillors? Councillor Mildren.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. Traditionally, well, start off, I haven't supported delegation instruments on too many occasions for a whole range of reasons, and most people are familiar with them. I've spoken about it many times. Traditionally, though, the delegation function was to ensure the smooth operational issues, operational matters of the council, the day-to-day things, the processes and procedures that happen under various bits of procedural applications, and the higher end community of interest and strategic matters were to be retained in the hands of the actual councillors. Now, what this instrument of delegation has done, and to some extent what the new Local Government Act has done, has muddied that extraordinarily and moved the spectrum or the point further to the point where basically everything is delegated to the CEO at least, and or to staff. There are very few things that are not delegated to the CEO. Most of those are the things that are not allowed to be delegated under the Act, and there's a handful of those. And then there's a couple of other things that councillors traditionally had in there. We haven't really changed the delegation significantly with the new Act. As Councillor Hall said, we haven't gone through it line by line. I suspect even myself, I don't think I've got a complete grasp of the actual detail of what it is we've delegated, because fundamentally we've delegated by exclusion to the CEO. So that means if it's not excluded, the CEO can do it, which in effect almost puts the CEO in the same position as the elected council. We have experienced a few things in recent past where that's not gone the way we would have liked it to have gone. We can talk about Junction Place. We can talk about other things where decisions have been made which one would have thought at least might have been community of interest, like naming of the library, decisions about where the end of trip bike hub and public toilets might be located. They're things that I would have thought would have had some input at least in a formal way by council. But the way the delegation is at the moment, those decisions can, and as we've seen, are often made by staff under their delegations. And they're not breaking the rules, they're doing it perfectly within the rules that we're giving them. And it's us that's handing those rules over. I think we've gone too far, and that's the reason why I'm not going to support the motion tonight. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Milton. Spot on 3 minutes. Again, everyone's doing great there. Thank you very much. I think That's everyone around the table in close. Councillor Lowe.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. Just in close, I'll probably just thank my other councillors for their thoughts and their debate. And whilst we don't always agree on everything, there's always some things you pick up from what other councillors have when they've aired their thoughts, and you can definitely take another viewpoint if needed. In this particular case, I won't be. Whilst I agree with some of what they were saying, it's not enough for me to change my mind on the way I'm going to vote tonight. It just probably reinforces the fact that some things just aren't in our control. So we can do the best we can to try to make it that way, but sometimes the Local Government Act says, makes our decision for us. But as I said earlier, I believe in starting from a position of trust, and then if it gets taken away, then it can be reassessed after that point. So I'm happy to vote in favour of the instrument of delegations tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Lowe. I therefore put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? Okay, 3-3. So as chair, I'll exercise my casting vote and I'll be in favour of the recommendation as stands. So in the vote there, 3 yes was Councillor Lowe, Watson and Simpfendorfer exercising their casting vote, and against was Councillor Quilty, Naldrin and Hall. Thank you. Moving on to item 8.3, the privacy policy. That's on page 468. And anyone looking there to, 460, yep, 468. I need a move and a seconder, please. Councillor Lowe, as recommended. Yep. Seconder, Councillor Hall, thank you. Councillor Lowe.
Not much to say to this one, Mr. Mayor. It's it's a document that speaks for itself, and one of those legislated ones.
Thank you. Councillor Hall.
Yeah, I haven't got much to add. The amended privacy policy is a report that states the need to bring the policy up to date with current legislation and best practices. The policy details what information Council collects and how Council will use this information. The review of this policy is usually done every 2 years or when requested by Council, and is an important document as it informs in detail and gives guidelines on how Council deals with privacy information that we receive. So we need to have a policy that outlines that, and I think it's fairly detailed. And yeah, best practice policy. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors? Councillor Quilty?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Just briefly, I'm happy to support privacy policy. It is important to have a policy and to make the community aware of how we are going to collect, store and use the personal and sensitive information. The policy has been updated. It now has a number of changes, and in particular, in addition to what has been said, I would like to highlight that it now references our following policy: the diversity, equity and inclusion policy and public transparency policy. It also realized there is an addition to the references in legislation. Our policy now references the Charter of Human Rights and Responsibilities Act 2006 instead of previously referencing Wodonga Council Charter of Human Rights. That's it. I'm happy to support the changes to the policy. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Cooley. Any other councillors before I go back to Councillor Lowe? No, Councillor Lowe? Okay, therefore I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Thank you, that's unanimous. Item 8.4 is the updated final draft of Belvoir and Willow Park's master plan, and there's a recommendation on page 477 for that to be adopted. Any movers? Councillor Watson, thank you. And a second. Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Councillor Watson.
Thanks, Mr. Acting Mayor. Gives me much pleasure to move this item tonight. We, as council laws, went to a few consultation times with the consultants and along with our staff. And at this point, I'd like to very much thank our staff and community members who put input into bringing the feedback to us, but particularly our staff. They were there and they engaged our community. I watched them very intently, how they brought the people out and got some great results doing that. And so I hope that's passed on to the team, but that open communications between us and the community on this these master planning of the two areas of Belvoir Park and Willow Park and everyone. I'd also like to raise that there's lots of other little interest groups that work in our parks and along with our staff. And these are the volunteers, and actually we probably need little micro plans of these master plans, so these community groups who have time and willing to put in a lot of energy can work on these parklands. So I have much pleasure in moving tonight's motion.
Thank you. Councillor Lowe.
Yeah, just like to echo Councillor Watson's words there too. I think it's a great idea, and we've got all these community groups that love to partner us and talk about value for money out of these community groups. What you get in dollars and cents worth out of them is unbelievable if someone quantified it. One thing when I was last on council, I sat here and said that I loved being able to run Wodonga from one side to the other and only cross one main road. That was the last time I was on. This time I don't even have to cross that road now, which is fantastic. And the linkages between these two master plans are great, and I'm glad that they speak to them, because it's not just Willow Park, it's just not Belvoir Park, it's the linkages between them. I will note, and I did raise a question, I noticed that we're doing master plans here and that that there was nothing said whether the skate park needed upgrading or didn't need upgrading. And I'm not sitting here for one means saying that the skate park needs any improvements. It's actually happening right now. There's upgrades happening or repair work happening there now. But I just noted that there was consultation with certain community groups about their specific sports or uses. And I'd raised a question on who we spoke to in the skate park community. And the CEO come back to me with some reasoning behind it. There was 2 consultation days held down at Willow Park, which is right near the skate park, so it was accessible to these kids. What I will note though is these kids aren't reading council websites. They're just down there having a skate and a scooter, so someone might need a tap on their shoulder if you actually want feedback from them. The other thing I will say is they're right, Albury has opened up a great skate park, and if there's going to be another bigger skate park built, it'd be out Leneva Barranuda way for a regional park. But that shouldn't mean that that this particular park should be out of our thoughts now, because Albury's got a new one and we might build a regional one out there. So there might be something that we can add later on into these master plans. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Councillors? Councillor Hall?
Yes, look, they're 2 of our most utilised areas in Wodonga. So, and as many in the community know, the council undertook some extensive community engagement earlier this year to find out what was the needs and the wants of the people and with the review of the master plan going forward for Belvoir and Willow Park. Most of the councillors went along to the community consultations, which were conducted by Ross Planning Consultants, and we had great feedback and participation at these sessions, which were done early morning and late afternoon. And just add to Councillor Lowe's, they had signs up and they were very well attended. So you couldn't miss them because of the signs that were up, and we were very close to the skate park, but not saying that, I don't remember speaking to anyone from the skate park, but there could have been that possibility because it was very visible. The draft master plans have been out on exhibition and have come back to council, so we've got to make a decision on whether we adopt the proposed plans that are in the report. There were some amendments following some feedback, and that's listed in the report. But I think the overall master plan plans a good outcome for the community, and I look forward to seeing some of these items proposed in the plan come to life. You know, there's especially there's a few things that at the Belvoir that I'm looking forward to. Possibly the coffee shop that that is one of the proposals, but an extension of the adventure playground for the kids as well. So there's some good things in this these plans, and it was extensively consulted with the community. So I think we've probably covered pretty much what most people were looking for in these master plans going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillors? Councillor Mildred?
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. Probably reiterating what others have said, but the process we went through in community consultation in this was absolutely wonderful. The level of connectedness, the openness and the way it was presented for the people that had an interest in the area, and to attract people that were more than just those that had a direct interest that might normally come along to those sorts of events. It was really well done. Having said all that, we come out with a master plan, and a master plan is usually a mix of what transpires, and often when you get consultation, you'll get one person or one group of people that'll want to pursue an agenda for the park and perfectly legitimate, and there'll be another group that has a opposing type view or a mutually exclusive view where you can't actually have both. And I'm sure there's been elements of that that's gone through this process. I think what we've come out with the park, with the plans that we've got at the moment, are admirable and have reached a really strong compromise. If there is a criticism that I have, and it's only a very small one, we probably could have looked a bit further afield with Belvoir Park and looked into maybe 50 years ahead. I think there's scope there for Belvoir Park to expand on the gem that it actually is. I think it will be an iconic place. If it isn't already, it will be an iconic place in Wodonga into the future. And I think it could be expanded, and there's other land that we could be long-term looking at incorporating into it and potentially building it into a central location in the cities that provides a lot of activities and a lot of opportunity in the coffee shops and maybe even cafes and things that go along with it. I think there's an opportunity for that. Some of that's not necessarily into the plan at the present stage, but over time I think the scope's there for these things to be added in. On the whole, I think we've done a pretty fair job on this. I think the community should be reasonably satisfied at the place where we're at this present moment, with the knowledge that we can look at it and roll it out even further into the future. Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor.
Councillor?
Coffee shop, and it should have been cafe, licensed cafe, and I think it sounds great, and I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you. Councillor Quilty, I think.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Just briefly reiterate what has been said. I would like to thank and congratulate council staff on running such an extensive community consultation and incorporating the feedback from community members and community groups into the master plans. It's quite admirable. If there is any room to improvement, which there always should be. We should always strive for perfection, and I hope we continue with other projects to run such good and better community consultation processes. On a personal note, I love Belvoir and Willow Parks. They are great places to sit and read council papers while my kids play in the park, and it's great to see as my kids grow, the extensions to the parks for all the kids and teenagers are happening as well. It's good to see. It's great to have places to get teenagers away from the screens and out into the skate park. I think I agree with councillors saying that Belvoir Park and Willow Park are our gems. They have beautiful and fun things to do for all community groups, and I'm looking forward to seeing them improve even further. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Quilty. I think that's everyone. Maybe back to Councillor Watson to close. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, and I do appreciate all the comments from my fellow councillors on this this master planning that's been done. I think it's going to be such a great area to keep on expanding, and an example of that tomorrow, the Rotary Club will be opening their Peace Bell, and that's an across the border regional. It'll be great for reflection and people to go to that park for other reasons as well. And it goes in hand with the Rose Garden there for cancer victims as well. So it is becoming a really iconic area, which one of my fellow councillors talked about. It will continue to grow, and I congratulate everyone who's been involved with it.
Thank you, Councillor Watson. I'll therefore put the motion. All those in favour? Thank you, councillors. That's unanimous. And I know there's going to be 10 very happy kids that I promised I would break the record for the Ninja Warrior course once it's built that are going to hold me to that. So I wonder if they're listening. Probably hope not. Moving on to 8.5, the Occupational Health and Safety Policy on page 541. There's a two-part recommendation. After I move for that, please. Thank you, Councillor Watson. A seconder, please, Councillor Lowe. Thank you. Councillor Watson.
It's very much changing the policies to be in line with everything in the local government and occupational health and safety requirements and well-being. So there's not much to really add to that, but you know, we need to have these recommendations and these reports and policies in place.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Councillors? Sorry. Councillor Hall, I think, just got the jump there.
Don't have much to add to them. Sorry, you probably should have. Yeah, the changes to the policy just in to align our policy with Australian standards and best practice management of the Workplace Safety Act. So it's something that we need to have. So yeah, I support it.
There you go. Councillor Milton, was your hand up? Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Whilst I understand the reason for this, and I will support the motion as it's put there, it's really interesting to note, when we talked about the delegations in a previous item tonight, it's really interesting to note this has come about as a number of, there's two things effectively. One is there's been changes in the legislation, but probably more importantly, there's been changes in the interpretation of language that is moving things in a different way. And traditionally, management was seen as the council, the elected councillors, but increasingly management is now becoming the domain of the staff and not the councillors, generally speaking. And as a consequence, we now find ourselves in a situation where previously the council would have adopted the policy in relation to safety, health and wellbeing, etc. But the way we have interpretation of the terms of management and so on now, it's seen as being within the domain of the CEO. So there's some parallel things in what I was referring to, or what we referred to previously in the delegations issue. Nonetheless, I understand the CEO in the new Act has, in a couple of pieces of legislation, has considerably more responsibility in regard to health and safety. There is still some questions as to whether that applies up to the councillors as well. I think there's advice being sought in relation to that. I haven't heard an outcome from that yet, but there's some interesting things that are changing as a result of interpretations and legislation. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Mildred. Councillor Quilty.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yes, just briefly, I will be supporting the policy as per recommendation. This is truly one of the things which we are required to hang over by legislation, and it is appropriate to have the CEO manage the health and safety on the council premises. Councillor Mildred has touched on the point that I also raised during our briefing when talking about this. This policy is not without sensitive points as far as councillors are concerned while they're on the premises. As the COVID years have shown, it is not just the employees of the council working on the premises who are bound or who this policy concerns. It is also relevant for the councillors, for example, submitting their COVID vaccination information to be on the premises, etc. So while I am going to support the CEO managing this policy as per the legal requirements, I'm hoping that we are going to, in a formal or informal session, work through the points where councillors may be, councillors as in elected representatives may be affected by the occupational health and safety policy. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Quilty. Councillor Watson, back to you. Any more? No? Thank you. I'll therefore put the motion. All those in favour? Thank you. That's unanimous. Item 8.6 is a tender for dig-out and stabilisation works. We'll find that page 549. Requesting a mover for that particular motion, please. So was that hand up? Sorry, Councillor Mildred. Thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Watson. Thank you. As per recommended, sorry. Yep, thank you. Councillor Mildred.
Mr. Mayor, I think this is relatively routine. I don't think there's an awful lot to speak about. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Watson.
Thanks, Mr. Acting Mayor. Yeah, it is very routine, as my fellow councillor has mentioned. However, this year, I'll probably digress a little bit, but this year and last year, the very wet winters, and it doesn't look like it's going to be abating for some time. Today was a very fine day, and I actually got held up on my bike with some roadworks happening in our great city. But yeah, it's one of those things that this probably area and probably be looking at more costing in our budget process at some stage, because we've just had one, extremely wet period of time.
Thanks, Councillor Watson. I'm sure we're not alone in that, but very relevant. Other councillors? No more. Therefore, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Item 8.7, Barranduda Sports Fields, page 5, or 555, I think. The recommendation. There's two parts in relation to AFL netball pavilion construction. Do I have a mover for that item, please? Thank you. Councillor Watson, the second. Councillor Lowe, thank you. Councillor Watson.
Once again, it's pretty self-explanatory, the report that's come before us and for the contract that will be going out for construction. I'm really excited. You know, this has been a long time in the making, and now to see we don't see all the earthworks and all the hard stuff below ground, but now we're going to see something raising out of the ground. So I think it's a great time for our city. One of these big projects been on the list for years and years and years is now actually starting to form into something really worthwhile for our community.
Thanks, Councillor Watson. Councillor Lowe.
Yeah, once again, I echo Councillor Watson's words. These are the types of projects that you wonder how long they're going to take, and because this is such a major project and such a in the location that it was put, there's a lot of infrastructure that goes into the ground for sewer and water, etc., that people just don't see. You know, there's NBN, Telstra, all these sorts of things. These costs add up. So if you told someone how many dollars worth was out there at the moment, you go, holy hell. But it's when projects like this start happening, when they can actually see a building, they can touch it, they can, not that they'll be allowed in there for a while to touch it, but they'll see it starting to take shape. And I look at this recommendation tonight by the officers and the tenderer, and the tenderer is on average $400,000 less than some of the other tenders. Less doesn't always mean better, but they definitely weren't the cheapest either. So it puts you in good stead. I look at some of their other projects that they've delivered for us and are doing around the city, and I take great heart in what I see with them. They look like they're doing a really good job. I can't wait to see what they do at these construction of the netball and courts and the soccer and AFL pavilion out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillors wishing to speak on that? Sorry, Councillor Quilty.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I will be voting as per recommendation in support of the recommendation. I would like to briefly remind everyone that our Barranduda Fields, along with Logic Industrial Estate, is one of our very big, ambitious, exciting, and very costly projects, and long-term, very long-term. And I urge my colleagues to always remember that when considering any new or current projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Quilty. Councillor Mildren.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a question initially. Have we got any information or as to who the tenants of the soccer and the AFL ground and pavilion might be into the future?
So, question is Councillor Mildren. I may defer the CORE staff for that. Thank you. I'm not sure if your mic was on then, CEO, so just for those playing at home, I think that was taken on notice, and we'll come back to Councillor Mildren with that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Acting Mayor. Barranduda Fields is an absolutely wonderful project, and it's long-term because of the nature of the project and the strategic regional significance of it, and the fact that it's to serve, amongst other things, the somewhat rapidly growing and developing area of Barranduda and Eva. We've just experienced one of the biggest housing growth booms in a very long time. I think we're probably, we shouldn't think that that's what it's going to be like forever, because we get swings and roundabouts in the industry, and we'll probably have a downtime at some point into the future. So the growth rates won't be consistent with what they've been in the last couple of years. But nonetheless, the area is going to grow very quickly. We're going to have a very significant number of families. I think the population's anticipated in the order of 26,000 people for Barrandiddle and Eva when it's full. And I think we're doing something that doesn't often happen by getting on the front foot. We might be premature, we might be putting it in a bit before it's necessary, but this takes a long time. These things take a long time to build. So I think we're probably on the right track, even if it is a bit early. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. If there's no more, I'll go back to Councillor Watson. Any more? No? Therefore, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Thank you. Unanimous. And on to item 8.8, our last report for determination tonight. Page 565. There's a recommendation. Do I have a mover for that, please? Councillor Watson? Yes, that's right. Or I should have picked that, Councillor Watson. I know you're on the committee there as per recommendation. Thank you. A seconder? Anyone from the floor? Seconder? First calls? No? Alternate motion? Just 1 second. Thank you. Without a seconder, I'm able to take an alternate motion. Councillor Lowe?
Just like a motion to lay this on the table till the next council meeting. Just during our briefing, I probably didn't get out of the briefing what I wanted to, just because our spokesperson wasn't in the meeting. So there was just some questions, and unfortunately I haven't caught up with him just yet to clarify any of the questions that I had. So I just wanted to lay it over for a month whilst we seek more information about it.
Thanks, Councillor Lowe. So just to summarise, I request to defer for 1 month on that particular item, 8.8. So, CEO, just a question with that. Were there any impacts of that being delayed a month that you're aware of?
Mr Deputy Mayor, I'm not aware of any issues that would cause. I have circulated an email to councillors today with a little bit more information, but certainly happy to have more discussion on that, and certainly Councillor Watson wasn't available at that particular discussion, so it'd be good to have Councillor Watson's input. Thank you.
Councillor Watson?
Thanks, Mr Acting Mayor. If this motion is successful and we are delaying it for a period of a month or to the next meeting, would it be at all possible to invite Carol Hammond up, who is the CEO or the manager, not the managing director, but and I think that would be a very proactive role to do, to have her in the room to ask any questions from our councillors and our staff members that are involved with it.
Thanks, Councillor Watson. I'll take that on notice with the CEO, and we'll look to try and make that happen if that is where this ends up. So that's a procedural motion from Councillor Lowe. Any other councillors wish to speak around that? Otherwise, I'll put the motion. All those in favour to defer it 1 month? All those against? Thank you. That is passed with 5 for and 1 against, and the against being Councillor Hall. Thank you. That concludes the reports for determination. We've got some reports for noting now, and as tends to be practice with our Mayor, I'll read through some of these, and please just either get my attention or raise your hand as I go through them if you've got any questions or wish to talk to any of them. 10.1 is the finance report for August 2022. 10.2, the planning report, again for August 22. 10.3 is the building report for the same time. And 10.4, competitive services report for August. 10.5, the single-use plastics policy update. Councillor Watson. Yep.
Just a very quick comment is that, you know, I think finding solutions is the thing with this paper that's come up, that plastics is one of our bugbears of our environment, our community, and where we head into the future. So whatever we can do as a local government, but whatever we can do as a community can only help us and our generations coming forward.
Thanks, Councillor Watson. 10.6, lobbying advocacy meetings and events for August 22 is there. 10.7, record of councillor meetings. And finally, our decisions register at 10.8. There's nothing there. There's no notices of motions at this stage or any petitions, I believe, CEO. That's right. General business. I've just got one thing to raise from general business, which was brought to my attention just before the meeting started, and that's in relation to our Wodonga Brass Band that has competed recently in the Victorian State Band Championships in Ballarat on the 20th of August. And you know, I think for those that have heard them, those that have been experienced enough, is probably not surprised to see that they won that and they became first at the state championships. So congratulations to the band. They then went on to Latrobe Valley. The Eisteddfod results there was a first in the D-grade, open D-grade brass, and a open C-grade brass a second. So congratulations to the Wodonga Brass Band, and I've almost got you out on time for those in the gallery. But congratulations, in all sincerity, to the Wodonga Brass Band. I think Councillor Lowe, you had something for general business as well.
Yeah, just a couple of quick ones. One was just wanted to congratulate Business Wodonga for they've seen a bit of a gap after talking to their members, and the same cry coming from a lot of their members and non-members that they're finding it hard staffing. They're going through their own staffing issues, all these businesses. So Business Wodonga have done a great job and brought together a job fair basically, and they just speaking with them and going down there, I noticed it was very well attended, and there was even a couple of stall holders that surprised me as well being there. And just a quick one, and I'll name names just for the sake of the explanation. It just really gives that true two cities, one community, and that was Tonkin Plumbing had a stall there, and they're based in Albury, but they do a lot of work in Wodonga, and you know they hire a lot of Wodonga people too. So it just goes to show that we don't just have to have Wodonga businesses here. We can have Albury businesses here, and vice versa if they do a job fair. And talking to their CEO, they're going to make it an annual thing, which I think is needed, especially at the moment while everyone is in these job crises, and also a couple of twists on it. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that is. They did it in collaboration, partnership with a few people too, and City of Wodonga being one, donating the venue for it as well. So thank you to the City of Wodonga for that. Another one of their partners is Wodonga TAFE, and I went down to, along with the Deputy Mayor and the CEO, we went down there and they had delivering of a social and economic impact. And what that basically meant is they wanted to put in dollar terms what the TAFE means to Wodonga when they're going out on their advocacy to local government, to state government and to federal government, and how much they mean to me, or mean to the city. And you look at some of their numbers that they actually bring, and I've got they had a big book and a little book, and I brought the little book with me tonight just because it's got a couple of notes in there, and that's exactly what someone should do when they're eye challenged, is bring the smaller printed stuff. But 42 million in wages, that's what it delivers to the local economy. A small percentage of that is because they're spread, even though it's Wodonga TAFE, they're spread all over Australia. 22 million in upskilling workforces, $11 million due to improved employment outcomes after training, 31.9 million with the Defence Force. There's some incredible numbers, and I look forward to seeing what they have an incredible advocacy campaign too, and people that they partner with and they deal with. Wodonga Health being one, Talangata Health, you know, just to name a couple. And so I'd like to see what they're going to do in the future. So I just sort of give them big shouts out because they're one of the major employers in town. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Lowe. If there's any other general business from the floor? No? Okay, on to urgent business, of which there is none. There's no confidential business tonight, and there's no confidential urgent business. So before I close the meeting, I just want to thank you all for being your chair tonight and welcoming me, and the gallery and those streaming at home. It's been my absolute pleasure to chair the meeting. So thank you, and not quite 7 o'clock, but as close as I could. So thank you all. Please stay safe and be kind. Thank you. I'll close the meeting.